Good afternoon, children. Grandma's story time. And today we've got a special theme for our story time. We've got a theme of rabbits. And we've got Rabbit here, and Lamb Chop, he's not a rabbit. And we've also got a special little rabbit that you all know because you've seen him do his stories when you were little. This is Little Rabbit. He lives inside this carrot. And he's going to be our special guest today. So there we are. Right, so our first story is going to be Rabbit's Higgledy-Piggledy garden. But first of all, I forgot. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Rabbit's Higgledy-Piggledy garden. Springtime was growing up in the 100-acre wood. Blades of grass poked through the last patches of melting snow. Fresh green buds covered the branches of the trees. Pooh, although he wasn't Pooey, Pooh and his friends said, "Spring will bring picnics." We love picnics. I love picnics. My favourite day is my birthday because we always have a picnic on my birthday. And bouncing, hoo hoo hoo, said Tigger. And swinging, Roo giggled. And planting. Rabbit took out his gardening book. Here he is. Me and Grandpa have been planting. Grandpa's been planting the potatoes and I've been looking after the flowers. And planting, Rabbit took out his gardening book. Oh my goodness, today is the official first day of planting. I've got work to do because you plant things in the spring, don't you? And if you look outside your window, you will see that there are daffodils and all sorts of things going green because it's the spring. As the others went on their way, Rabbit picked up all the twigs and leaves that the autumn and winter had left behind. He carefully dug up weeds that were starting to grow. Finally, he raked the soil to loosen up the clumps. Rabbit nodded. Everything was in order. Now my vegetable garden is ready for planting. The sun rose higher as Rabbit dragged his bags of seeds out into his garden. Oh my, I have more seeds than I thought, Rabbit puffed as he pulled the last bag across his doorstep. Why, there must be thousands of them. I'll never get them all planted on time. So Rabbit asked his friends if they would help. Tigger, Eeyore, Piglet, Roo and Pooh all hurried to Rabbit's garden for a planting party. There they all are. Now, Rabbit was very glad of his friends' help. He soon found, though, that each of them had their own style of planting. None of their styles quite matched Rabbit's. Tigger, what are you doing? Rabbit asked as Tigger bounced around the garden. There he was, boing, boing, boing. And sometimes you like to help me in my garden, don't you? But mostly I think you like to come in the summer when the fruit's here, and some people pick the strawberries and the raspberries and eat them, don't you, Yonna and Sylvie, and sometimes Florence, and in fact all of you have at some time or another been picking my fruit. Well, planting carrot seeds, Bunny boy, said Tigger. What does it look like I'm doing? It looks like you're bouncing as usual, said Rabbit. I'm not just bouncing, Tigger said. When I bounce down, I make the carrot seed whole. When I bounce up, I drop the carrot in. See? Like that. Splendiferous, huh? Tigger beamed as he bounced off to plant another carrot seed. You might try a system of rows, Rabbit called, but Tigger was already gone. It's okay, Rabbit, said Roo. I'll plant all the seeds. Rabbit frowned. I'll have carrots springing up everywhere. Well, at least Piglet is doing a tidy job, said Rabbit. Piglet was in charge of planting the radish seeds. Do you know what radishes are? Radishes, there he is. Radishes are kind of sharp little, hot tasting little things that you can put in salad. And if you grow them, they grow very, very quickly, so they're quite nice to plant. If you're looking for something easy to plant and grow, then that's one of the things to do. Piglet was in charge of planting the radish seeds. Being neat by nature, he carefully planted his seeds in straight, evenly placed rows. Rabbit smiled down at the neat rows. Very nice, Piglet, very nice. He looked up. Piglet? Rabbit scratched his head. He was here a minute ago. Suddenly Rabbit heard a small noise in the tree up above him. Piglet, what are you doing up there? Piglet peeked down, holding on tight to a branch high in the rabbit's apple tree. I think the wind thought I was a leaf and blew me up here, said Piglet. Oh my, oh dear, oh Piglet, oh planting day. Rabbit raced off to get help. Christopher Robin came back with Rabbit and rescued Piglet from the tree. He was too late to rescue the radish seeds, though. The wind had blown the seeds out of their neat rows and scattered them all over the garden. Rabbit's shoulders sagged. I guess I'll look for Piglet's radishes next to Tigger's carrots next year, he said. There's Christopher Robin trying to save him. Rabbit trudged over to Eeyore, who was planting turnips. Now, Eeyore's quite a sad person, isn't he? He's always a bit down at the mouth. Eeyore dug small holes, dropped in seeds, covered them up, then stamped on the soil. Don't want 'em to blow away, he told Rabbit. Now they won't grow properly. Why? Asked Rabbit. Was something wrong with the seeds? I planted them, he said. That's enough. Rabbit looked down at Eeyore's patch. Eeyore was right. The soil was packed so hard that the seedlings would never be able to push their way through, because seeds are very gentle, aren't they? And you have to put them near the top, some nice bit of soil over the top, and then water them so that when the sun comes, it warms them up and they grow like that. Look, Rabbit, called Roo. I planted all the cabbage seeds. Now comes the fun part. Watering! Roo filled up Rabbit's watering can. Roo watered and watered and watered till he made a big mud puddle in the middle of Rabbit's garden. Cabbage seeds floated to the top of the puddle, but Roo didn't notice. Splash! Roo jumped right in the middle of the puddle. Mud and cabbage seeds sprayed all over the garden and Rabbit. Look at that messy, messy Roo. This is definitely not how to plant a garden, Rabbit said to himself. Why, everything's higgledy-piggledy. He walked over to see how Pooh was doing with his squash seeds. Pooh had just planted the last one. Now then, Pooh told the seeds, you must get as much sun and rain as you can. Then you'll grow into some very nice, ripe, round squashes. Rabbit will use you for stew, and then he will invite his friends over for stew and honey. Then Rabbit saw Pooh pick up an empty honey pot. As Rabbit watched, Pooh dug a hole, put the honey pot in it and covered it with soil. Pooh Bear, whatever are you doing? He said. Rabbit, I'm planting a honey tree, Pooh said proudly. A honey tree? Rabbit said. Well, we all know that honey comes from bees, doesn't it? It's not on a tree, although sometimes a bee's hive is on a tree, but you can't plant honey. How silly. That's it. Everyone out. He waved his friends away from the garden. This higgledy-piggledy planting is finished. Rabbit's friends smiled. They were sure that higgledy-piggledy meant a job well done. They all laughed and waved. Rabbit sank down on his wheelbarrow. I have seeds everywhere but where they should be. I have a honey pot where it shouldn't be. Rabbit looked over at Eeyore's turnip patch. And I have seeds that will never grow. What did they think they were doing? This is the worst planting day ever. Rabbit looked through his planting book. There was no advice on how to fix a higgledy-piggledy garden. These gardeners probably never had a higgledy-piggledy garden, Rabbit said. We've got a higgledy-piggledy garden though, and we have to fix lots of stuff. Grandpa's pretty good at it though. He looked out at the garden. There was just one thing he could do. Tomorrow, said Rabbit, I'll just have to dig up all of those seeds and replant them my way. They will be planted properly, orderly, and not higgledy-piggledy. Rabbit got up early the next morning, ready to put things right in his garden. When he got there, his friends were already there. Rabbit was sure that they meant to help him straighten things up. His friends had other ideas. We're checking out on our higgledy-piggledy gardens, Rabbit shouted Roo. Yeah, we want to see if any higgledies have started to piggledy yet, said Tigger. All day his friends stayed in the garden, laughing and tending to their seeds. Every day after that, Rabbit's friends came to check on their garden. I'll never be able to fix things at this rate, Rabbit said to himself. When the first seedlings came up, he knew it was too late. His garden was ruined for the season. And there's a bit of the seeds coming up. Rabbit's friends didn't see anything wrong with the garden. They were happy that their seeds were sprouting. Only Eeyore and Pooh seemed unhappy. I knew mine wouldn't grow, said Eeyore, looking at his turnip patch. I rather thought that mine would, said Pooh, looking at his honey tree patch. That night, Rabbit looked out at his garden. He thought of Tigger's bouncing and Eeyore's stamping. After a moment, he started to smile. As the moon rose, Rabbit loosened the ground in Eeyore's turnip patch. He uncovered seedlings that had been waiting to burst out of the ground. Then Rabbit tipped over to Pooh's honey tree patch. He dug up Pooh's honey pot and replaced it with a sapling. A sapling is a baby tree. Rabbit stood up and addressed the garden. Now, don't get used to this. We'll have none of this next year. Just this one year. If we're going to have a higgledy-piggledy garden, then we're going to have a good higgledy-piggledy garden. And there it is, all growing nicely in the light of the moon. The end of that one. And I think we might have time for just one more. What do you think? Right. This one is a very favourite book. This is a book that your grandpa used to read to his little girl Claire, and she's a big girl now. Right. And it's called 7 Little Rabbits. And Jim Kane didn't used to like me reading this because sometimes it sends you to sleep. So here goes. 7 little rabbits walking down the road, walking down the road. 7 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. 1 little rabbit said he was tired, walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said he was tired, walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. So 7 little rabbits turned around until they found, down in the ground, a hole built by a mole. Seven little rabbits went down the hole built by the mole, down in the ground until they found a den. Then the 7th little rabbit went to sleep. Shh! Don't say peep. He's tucked in bed, and now instead there are... See the den. 6 little rabbits walking down the road, walking down the road. 6 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. 1 little rabbit said he was tired, walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said he was tired, walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. There they are. So 6 little rabbits turned around until they found, down in the ground, a hole built by a mole. 6 little rabbits went down the hole built by the mole, down in the ground, until they found a den. Then the 6th little rabbit went to sleep. Shh! Don't say peep. He's tucked in bed, and now instead there are 5 little rabbits walking down the road, walking down the road. 5 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. 1 little rabbit said she was tired walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said she was tired walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. Oh, having a picnic there. I love picnics. So 5 little rabbits turned around until they found down in the ground a hole built by a mole. 5 little rabbits went down the hole built by the mole down in the ground until they found a den. Then the 5th little rabbit went to sleep. Shh, don't say peep. She's tucked in bed, and now instead there are 4 little rabbits walking down the road, walking down the road. 4 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. There they are. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 little rabbit said she was tired walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said she was tired walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. So 4 little rabbits turned around until they found down in the ground a hole built by a mole. 4 little rabbits went down the hole built by the mole down in the ground until they found a den. Then the 4th little rabbit went to sleep. Shh, don't say peep. She's tucked in bed. And now instead there are 3 little rabbits walking down the road, walking down the road. 3 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. 1 little rabbit said she was tired walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said she was tired walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. So 3 little rabbits turned around until they found down in the ground a hole built by a mole. 3 little rabbits went down the hole built by the mole down in the ground until they found a den. Then the 3rd little rabbit went to sleep. Shh, don't say peep. She's tucked in bed, and now instead there are 2 little rabbits. Only 2. Walking down the road, walking down the road. 2 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. 1 little rabbit said he was tired walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said he was tired walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. So 2 little rabbits turned around until they found down in the ground a hole built by a mole. 2 little rabbits went down the hole built by the mole down in the ground until they found a den. Then the 2nd little rabbit went to sleep. Shh, don't say peep. He's tucked in bed. And now instead there is 1 little rabbit. 1 little rabbit. Walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. 1 little rabbit said he was tired walking down the road, walking down the road. 1 little rabbit said he was tired walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. So 1 little rabbit turned around until he found down in the ground a hole built by a mole. Then the last little rabbit went to sleep. Shh, don't say peep. He's tucked in bed, and now instead of walking down the road, the last little rabbit dreamed a dream. And in that dream, all in a blur, there were... What do you think? 7 little rabbits walking down the road, walking down the road. 7 little rabbits walking down the road to call on old friend Toad. There we go. Wasn't that a lovely little story? I hope you've fallen asleep now. You can have a little nap. Give your mum and dad some peace. Right. It's time to go. See you tomorrow. Oh, forgot to say goodbye, didn't we? Say bye-bye, rabbit. Bye. Say goodbye, big rabbit. Bye. Say goodbye, lamb chop. Bye, children.